when you get a nice big piece like this, what you want to do, instead of just wailing around down the middle, you want to chink off the sides. So you're going to take a sliver off, a sliver off, a sliver, work it down. You also want to avoid knots. So when a piece of wood has a gnarly knot in it, that's going to be a lot harder to cut through. So on this piece here, if I notice this knot, if I wanted, let's say it was thicker, if I wanted to break it down again, I wouldn't try to go through the knot. I would try to offset the knot, because that is just pulling all the wood fibers together. A piece like this would make terrible kindling. You might get a couple wavy lines off of it, but because of that knot, it's going to be too hard to cut. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Basically, you're trying to make almost dimensional lumber out of the middle. So when you take your swings, you want to be closer to the sides and you're going to rotate it around. So hopefully I don't embarrass myself here on this, but I'm going to start my swing aiming towards the side. And so you'll see I took off a wedge. That'll be fine for the wood stove. It's a little hard to balance these to try to break them down again. You could, but that'll sit nicely in the base of a wood stove. If you wanted to, you could. So then we're going to take this guy, which we just took one face off, and we're going to rotate it. Now we're going to take another face off of it. So we're aiming for the side again. Oh, that one's going to be a two swinger. That went a little closer to the center than I should have. Oh, a three swinger. But she's fully cracked, so she should go. There we go. It's the same thing. Now we got two sides. We're going to rotate. I'm going to do the other side. When you're going off the sides like this, you're going to run into less wood bind, less knots in the middle. That's why it's kind of blowing off easy that way. And you're also left with a really nice piece of wood for stacking. So this piece here, instead of being round, it's now rectangular. I can split that a couple more times, and it's going to fit in the wood stove way better because it's going to stack nice like Jenga blocks versus trying to fit triangles or, the wedge shape wood. And you're always left with these big gaps. This is just going to stack in there. So we're going to set it down, and we're going to split it a couple more times. And you're left with these nice rectangles of wood. These are going to fit in the wood box in the wood stove, and you can stack them, have them side to side. A lot easier to stack these. And I'm going to show you another. If I find a stubborn one, I'll show you another technique that I like to do when you get a stubborn one. I'll talk you through it in the next piece. I don't need to break that down anymore. It's pretty good. Yeah, so you end up with these offcuts that, again, are flat. So even the sides, you do a nice shallow cut, they're going to stack in there nice. They're not these big, thick wedges. So the other thing I was going to say, especially if you're not using as heavy of an axe, another technique you can do, if you got a really stubborn one. Okay, so you got a piece like this. Let's say it does have some knots in it and it's really stubborn. So you have the option to slice off the sides and work it down. The other option is if you hit it with the axe and it doesn't split, rotate it a little, hit it again, rotate a little, and you don't have to try to kill the wood. Just keep rotating it, and you're going to weaken it up, and you're going to find a spot that has, a weak spot. So if you just keep spinning it and hitting, you're eventually going to find the weak spot where it's not going to be trying to go through knots, and it'll blow apart. You don't have to wail at it like a Greek god. That helps on camera, but in the real world, you can let the weight of the axe just do its thing and then just rotate it a little bit. You don't have to really put too much swing into it. And good advice is when you're first getting used to the axe, keep your legs spread nice, judge that distance. You know, you don't want to accidentally cut your leg off. Once you've done, your 10,000 logs like I have, you really stop thinking about it and you got a lot of control. But if you just keep working your way around the log, nice and light, I'm just letting the axe do its thing right there. On that hit, as I was rotating it, I wasn't putting any force into it, but you see that split? Doesn't mean I got to start wailing on it now. I can keep rotating, but I know it's going to pop there. So I've got to split all the way through both sides, here and here. So if I just keep working at it, nice and light, again, you don't have to wail on it. She's going to split for you. Of course, I can put a piece down like that. I can put my legs and back into it, and she'll go boom into a million pieces. But you don't have to. So don't be intimidated by splitting with an axe, thinking that you need to put a lot of force into it. The one nice thing about this axe, it is a heavy one, heavier than I'd recommend for someone starting out, 8 pounds, but it's got a nice long handle. And if you've ever tried to use a lever, lever action, momentum torque, a torque wrench, the longer it is, the more force is coming in here when you swing it. So very gently, if I hold really low, I can put a ton of force at the end of the head. And if I wanted to be a little more controlled, like when I'm doing kindling, I hold it nice and close to the handle. This is probably twice as big as I'd recommend if you're just starting out. Maybe go with like a 4 pound or a 2 pound.